Hi winners, I am so excited about today. We get to discuss book talks. And as readers, it is so important that we learn how to share about books. I have some friends here at school. I call Miss Key and I'll say, hey, I need a new book. Can you give me a suggestion? And we'll have a little book talk on the phone and I'll read some of the books she suggests or vice versa. And I love sharing books. But it's important when we read a book that we can talk about it. We don't even have to have read the whole thing, but we need to learn how to talk about books. So today I'm going to give you a little outline of what a book talk should include. When you're sharing about a book, you want to make sure you share important book information. The title, the author, oh, I read the greatest book by so-and-so. Francine Rivers, that's the first one that comes to my head. And not an author you would want, but I read the greatest book by, and it had the most beautiful illustrations. I could tell you this, as a kid, when my mom would read The World of Winnie the Pooh to me, the sketches by Ernest H. Shepard were just so sweet and so pretty. That's a book talk. I know a little bit about it with the title and the author and the illustrator. Not all books have illustrators, and that's not a big deal to get held up on. So just share the name, share the title, share the author, because sometimes if people want to go find it, they'll, oh, what was that book by that author? And they can't. So you want to include the author and the illustrator. The next thing you want to make sure you do is to provide a brief summary. No spoilers. Don't give it away. No matter what the person says that you're talking to, don't give it away. Even if they go, oh, I'm never going to read that book, go ahead and tell me what happens. Don't. No spoilers. Because your book talk might be so exciting that they decide to go and read it themselves. So no spoilers whatsoever. No spoilers. Make sure you describe a little bit about the book and maybe even a little bit about what you liked and if by chance you disliked. Like I always have a hard time with horse stories like Stormy or Black Beauty or any of those. I just, passionate, powerful stories, but I just dislike the part when the horse suffers or when the horses struggle, or in any animal story struggles, as we've looked at the ones this week from Animals in Film. So you might want to touch on what you like or dislike, but you don't spend a lot of time on the dislike part. Right? Just touch on it. Spend more time on the positive, on what you liked about the book. And then you want to mention possibly some text connections that you had with the book or some personal observations. You know, I really liked it when the characters met on the bridge. I knew they were going to have a real friendship. Some kind of observation that shows you were thinking further while you were reading. All right? Or if it's an informational text. You know, I think that we could really help the sea turtles. We could find a sea turtle group and start supporting them. That's something that I think after reading this book, there are all kinds of thoughts that you can share. I finally read Red Tail Angels, and I jotted down a little book talk to share with you. So let me listen closely. This is Red Tail Angels by Tiffany Gaston, illustrated by Franco Rivoli. It's one of our benchmark books. It tells all about the first all-black squadron of pilots in the U.S. military. There were some scary parts, some very tense, uptight parts that made me a little nervous. They were in some very dangerous situations. But what I liked best is the characters knew when to be serious and take their situation very seriously and when to play around and joke around with each other. They knew when to have fun and when they needed to be serious. And what I really enjoyed is as I read about these pilots, my connection was that my dad was an Air Force pilot. And it made me wonder what he was like in his squadron and with the men that he flew with. I really enjoyed this book. It's a piece of realistic fiction, so it takes a true historical time in our history, but a fictional story. And I think when we get together, you'll enjoy it too. You see, that was my book talk. And I made eye contact with you. I had a few notes about it, but I made eye contact with you. I shared. Did I tell you exactly what happened? Did I give anything away? No. Did I tell you who wrote it? There is an illustrator. That's pretty cool in this one. The illustrations are very nice. And I made a connection. And you know there are going to be some tense, dangerous moments. But I didn't tell you what they were, and I didn't tell you how they came out of them or if they came out of them. That's how you put together a book talk. Now, there are also two very important things to remember when you are listening to a book talk. There are certain behaviors that are required so that you're a good listener, just like you were today on our Zoom call. So when we're a listener, we want to make sure that we make eye contact and that we listen and we learn. Sometimes what happens when we're listening to a book talk, as soon as we make a connection, our brain goes off on that tangent thinking, oh, well, I want to tell them about this and I want to tell them about that. And you totally stop listening to the person giving the book talk. So discipline yourself, train your brain to listen and make eye contact with the speaker. Like when I go to church, I try to always make eye contact with the pastor. When I'm listening to Mrs. Salter in a meeting, or when I'm listening to other teachers sharing technology or teaching us something, I always try to make eye contact because that tells my brain focus on the speaker, pay attention, and it keeps me in that square so I'm not distracted as often. Then you want to always remember to be respectful, and I can't thank you enough for how respectful you were today on our Zoom. Absolutely amazing. Listening to those sharing, being patient with people logging in. It was wonderful. So you want to be a good listener when you're hearing a book talk or you're hearing a speaker, no matter what they're speaking on. Then you want to remember when you're reading, before you give the book talk, if there's a part you didn't understand, be sure and ask for help, because it might be very important to know how something went together, how one part of the book related to another, or if you're not sure what happened to a character, or if it's informational text and you're not sure exactly how they're helping those animals or exactly how they're solving a problem. Ask for help. Ask for clarification. And then when you share, support your statements with evidence. And that's whether we're giving a book talk or talking in general, having a literary circle, or even sharing on our Zoom like you did today when we asked you, what character trait do you look for in a friend? None of you just said your trait and stopped. You gave a reason for it afterwards. I look for loyalty in a friend, someone who will stand up for me no matter what. I look for kindness in a friend because that puts my heart at ease. I look for honesty in a friend because I've been hurt by a lack of honesty before. See, those are reasons that you give. You always support your thought with evidence. Whether we're writing our thoughts and supporting them with evidence, or speaking our thoughts and sharing, giving evidence. My other favorite part when you're doing a book talk, you may not have written it down like I did to share, not like an old-fashioned book report. And sometimes you just want to keep it in your head. But what I love to do on copies that are my own, and you can even do this when you get on Benchmark, it allows you a spot to do what I'm about to show you. These are my favorite things. Hold on. Wait for it. You may not be as excited about this, but I really am. I love Post-it notes. So when I'm reading a book, I always, well, most of the time, I either have a pencil, a highlighter, or Post-its by me. If I am in a meeting where we're learning new curriculum, I always make sure there are Post-its on the table. If I'm at home reading a book, usually if I'm outside reading, I keep a pencil. Let me show you. Let me just give you a few examples. Look at all the Post-its here with little notes reminding me, oh, I want to share this with you. Oh, I want to share that with you. even have a paper clip from yesterday when I wanted to remember something. Post-its everywhere. That way, if it's not my book to keep, I haven't written in it, I haven't hurt the text, but I've marked my places that I want to refer to. When I'm reading a book that's mine to keep, I usually keep a pencil by me and make notes in the text, like I did in this one. And I started my own little code, like if it's really awesome and I want to go back and I want to share it with Mr. Wilson or something, I tend to fold the page in half. And that tells me, that's my own little code of, I want to share this page with someone. If I read something and I love the whole part of it, I bracket. If there's something amazing on the page and I want to make sure I share it, or I want to make sure I go back and write it down, I'll just very carefully bend the corner. Like if it's near the bottom of the page, I'll very carefully bend the corner. If it's near the top, I'll bend the corner. When these are my own books that I know I can use like that, because then they become like a best friend. They become like your stuffed animals that are just so worn out because they've been loved so much. Well, that's what the books become. When I'm reading a book that I've borrowed from a friend, or when I'm reading a book that I might not keep for forever, then I'll make Post-it notes by me and a little code. I'll put LOL if it's a funny part that I want to share with you later in a book part. I'll put a starburst if it's important. Sometimes I'll put an exclamation point if it surprised me, or like, wow, that was amazing. I'll put a little heart if it's a favorite part that I just loved. If it's informational text and I didn't quite understand something and I want to go back later and ask a question, I'll put a question mark by it. And then if it's a part that I predict or I think, or I find some foreshadowing, like, oh, I just know they're going to end up together, if it's a romance beach novel or something, and I just know they're going to get together, then I can sometimes draw a little cloud and put up my Post-it note there. You'll find when you're here with me, when we do mentor text, or you borrow a book out of my library, you're welcome to Post-it note all over it. And you design your code. We'll have this in the room for you. I have Post-its all the time. Look at this. I have a little book of Post-it notes with Shakespeare, with different size. I can put a little note, a cute little pen, or I can tab my page as a bookmark. I have Post-it notes that are shaped like pencils. I've been saving these for when we're together. So as you read and you've set up your reading spot, maybe have a little bucket or something like this. Look, I have my little bucket. I keep my Post-it notes, my pens, my paper clips, and I have these like almost all over the house, everywhere I love to read, or I'll just carry it with me. This one stays here in the classroom. So as you read, this Friday we're going to start, if you haven't already, reading for at least 20 minutes every night at home. We give you reading time here when we're in class. Think about getting some Post-it notes and starting your own code for what you want to add in your book. So when we get together and I say, hey, what have you been reading lately? You can get your book. Oh, I've been reading this book by so-and-so. I've been reading BFG by Roald Dahl. And oh, the funniest part was right here. And you can go to the Post-it note with the LOL on it and you can tell me all about it. And that gives us something to converse and share as I ask you what you've been reading, because I love to know what you've been reading. So enjoy your time, read in your comfy spot, think about some Post-it notes, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great week. Bye.